Hey guys, so I'm going to go through a bunch more of the A Course in Miracles review lessons so that they go through a bunch, at once rather than going through each one individually, which I think is worthwhile to do, or it's at least worthwhile to go and read them. So the link in the description below is to A Course in Miracles Now, which I think has a downloadable app and also, a website with some stuff you can use or read the text or whatever. But I was thinking about, I was feeling kind of irresponsible for just like buzzing through all these, especially for people who aren't like familiar with A Course in Miracles. But I've been saying since the beginning that Neville Goddard's works, all of the big spiritual literature, all that stuff, they're all talking about the same truth. A Course in Miracles is just another form of that. And I think because a lot of the people that watch this particular channel have already been exploring a lot of these ideas, that going through things one by one is not necessary in the way it might be although I have to say, if you hadn't been thinking about any of these types of concepts ever, this whole thing would seem really foreign. I'm not sure. There's a happy medium, and I think most of the people watching this channel are at that happy medium where they've already been kind of thinking about it, so this stuff can make sense and it can be gone through faster without it being detrimental exactly. So if you've been thinking about self-concept, or you've been exploring the ideas of manifesting, and you're already accepting that your thoughts and feelings are creative, that's something that I think is a big hurdle for people to get past when they first are introduced to A Course in Miracles. So most people watching this type of stuff are already well beyond that, and I think they're ready for a lot of A Course in Miracles stuff. So I think last time, I'm pretty sure we got up to 60 or 61. I think the review lessons ended on 60. Sorry, I'm so unprepared for this. I'm just in my car with my two phones and haven't really looked back at what I did before. So I'm gonna go through these as much for myself as for you, because this morning I was thinking I want to do some Course in Miracles stuff again. It's really nice that I have this channel that needs content, thanks to my commitment to do video every day. It's really keeping me in this space, which is good for me, because I have some advancing that I need to do, and I get distracted regularly by mundane worldly things, specifically my business. So it's great to have something sort of bringing me back to all of this every day. Anyway, let's see. 2 minutes and 55 seconds of bullshit at the beginning of this. Good job, Mac. Okay. A Course in Miracles review lessons 61 and 62. I'm going to do a bunch of these. I think this is going to be a long video. If you're not into this stuff, come back tomorrow, because I'm going to make something else for that, I think. So, lesson 61. I am the light of the world. How holy am I, who have been given the function of lighting up the world? Let me be still before my holiness. In its calm light, let all my conflicts disappear. In its peace, let me remember who I am. Some specific forms for applying this idea when special difficulties seem to arise might be: let me not obscure the light of the world in me. Let the light of the world shine through this appearance. This shadow will vanish before the light. This is, I think, in my opinion, a direct parallel to the sort of entry-level manifestation idea of ignoring the 3D. But I mean, really, all of that and all of this is about learning, understanding that you do not understand what anything you're seeing means, and that you're not seeing it for what it really is. You are seeing it through your many and varied projections and judgments. 62. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. It is through accepting my function that I will see the light in me. And in this light will my function stand clear and perfectly unambiguous before my sight. My acceptance does not depend on my recognizing what my function is, for I do not yet understand forgiveness. Yet I will trust that in the light, I will see it as it is. Specific forms for using this idea might include: let this help me learn what forgiveness means. Let me not separate my function from my will. I will not use this for an alien purpose. again, the concept of the concept of forgiveness in the Course in Miracles is not the typically thought of idea of forgiveness. My clip is bothering me. It's not an ego thing. It's a clear sight thing. It's a shift in perception thing. So that's really important to understand if you're going to get what this thing is talking about. Again, the whole thing is about correct vision, correct perception, basically perceiving the world through the eyes of God. And that might sound lame. I'm just going to come right out and address what a certain subset of people watching this are definitely thinking. I can tell you, and that I think comes from, and of course I'm projecting my garbage onto this, but that comes from, I think, for a lot of people, not enjoying the experience of organized religion as a child. All of this stuff is really kind of like revolting to people who did not enjoy the experience of organized religion. Seeing the world through God's eyes is a feeling of, in my experience, the highest form of peace and ecstasy. It's a feeling that cannot be described in human terms. I have only experienced this for an extended period of time, twice ever. And it's not something that you can forget. And basically, I don't think you can ever, without some serious forgetting, ever strive for much else. I have managed to forget and strive for other things. Stupidly. Okay, A Course in Miracles, review lessons 63 and 64. 63. The light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. My forgiveness is the means by which the light of the world finds expression through me. My forgiveness is the means by which I become aware of the light of the world in me. My forgiveness is the means by which the world is healed together with myself. Let me then forgive the world that it may be healed along with me. Suggestions for specific forms for applying this idea are: let peace extend from my mind to yours, name of person. I share the light of the world with you, name of person. Through my forgiveness, I can see this as it is. So again, you could replace the idea that you have of forgiveness that might be confusing this or not making it not feel right to you with my correct perception. The change in the way I'm seeing the world. The change in the way I'm seeing the world is the means by which the light of the world finds expression through me. My change in the way I'm looking at things is the means by which I become aware of the light of the world in me. So basically, removing these stupid ideas that I have about everything, removing these, old, crusty, dusty beliefs that I formed 100 years ago, is now allowing me to become aware of what I really am and who I really am. This experience, the experience of these changes, again, is just like, it is the most, it's just like, it's the biggest upgrade to how you feel 24/7 overall that I can imagine. And it's also shocking and amazing and expanding and evolutionary for you, because when something big changes, then you see, like, it's demonstrated for you experientially that this stuff is true. And it also, makes you understand that you can basically almost exist as two different people in one lifetime in the same body. That's what this stuff means. My change in the way I'm viewing myself and the world is the means by which the world is healed together with myself. Everything that you believe and perceive, it infuses you in the world. Does that make sense? Everything you do in the world, the way you present in the world, is infused with everything you think and believe and feel about yourself and others and everything. It is beyond scientific understanding, but it is quite clearly, and to me anyway, true, that when you meet somebody, they know a lot about you, you know a lot about them, and you don't know why. It's coming energetically through you somehow. And so when you are changed, everyone can tell. Everyone. And your relationships with people can't help but change. And, the Course in Miracles talks about how that is healing. Like, healing will come through you. Miracles come through you. I've seen firsthand how that is the case. Other people are able to elevate because of you, either directly or indirectly. Okay, 64. Let me not forget my function. I would not forget my function because I would remember myself. I cannot fulfill my function if I forget it. And unless I fulfill my function, I will not experience the joy that God intends for me. That's one thing also, I think, to know about this. And another thing that was like a turnoff for me when I was, 22, many eons ago. It's like there's, I think, an idea also, at least for me, stemming from organized religion experience, that there's just sort of this like boring, lifeless, you're just a vessel being used, and that's a bad thing. Like, what this all means is that when you can get your perception aligned exactly, the will of God or the all or whatever is exactly the same as the will of you. You want those things, and then you experience the things that you want, and it's effortless and seamless. You're aligned. This is like, what Esther talks about. I feel like it's all talking about the same thing. I don't know. I guess I just keep wanting to say that over and over again. It's so obvious to me that, like, when you have a desire for something, Esther Hicks talks about aligning yourself with it, which is basically feeling good. It's getting to a point where you genuinely feel good and don't focus on lack and all these things. It's like where you're aligning, and that feeling of just like elevated energy or whatever you want to call it, that's the alignment with God. That's God. That's what you feel when it's like the same inner feeling when you're aligned with, when you're thinking of yourself in the right way in relation to something that you want. There's a certain sort of overall elevated energy. And that is also the same feeling when you're sort of doing God's work in this way, or when you're, however they phrase it, when you're performing your function, when you're seeing the world through God's eyes, which is pretty much all you have to do to be fulfilling your function. So, did I read the suitable specific forms of this idea? Let me not use this to hide my function from me. I would use this as an opportunity to fulfill my function. This may threaten my ego, but cannot change my function in any way. So basically applying those ideas to situations that arise that, drag you down into those lower emotional states. Okay, lessons 65 and 66. 65. My only function is the one God gave me. I have no function but the one God gave me. This recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I cannot have conflicting goals. With one purpose only, I am always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function is the one God gave me. And I believe moving forward, this gets defined more. This is why I wanted to read this. I kind of skipped through these myself because, I don't know, I was distracted by my life and they didn't seem that appealing. More specific applications of this idea might take these forms. My perception of this does not change my function. This does not give me a function other than the one God gave me. Let me not use this to justify a function God did not give me. So again, these are all just being applied to situations in your daily boring life that come up that disrupt your sense of peace. It's very easy to spot these things once you realize that you should always be feeling peace. Not should be like you're doing something wrong if you're experiencing humanity, and going through these range of emotions. But the idea is to catch those things and start to erase them, start to correct them with these ideas. 66. My happiness and my function are one. All things that come from God are one. They come from oneness and must be received as one. Fulfilling my function is my happiness because both come from the same source. And I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. I'm pretty sure I literally just said this about a previous lesson. Some useful forms for specific applications of this idea are, this cannot separate my happiness from my function. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this. Nothing, including this, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function. Do you see how applying these ideas to situations that arise in your life, it's just like more and more curing or relief from the idea that you know what anything means? I don't know. My happiness and my function are one. Yeah, I was just saying on the previous one of the previous ones that it's like the when you're seeing everything, your perception has been corrected. You are seeing everything clearly. You're not encumbered by a whole bunch of beliefs and ideas about yourself and the world that are blocking everything, skewing and distorting everything. When you're seeing everything clearly, you have true desires, and those desires are in alignment with what should happen. That doesn't mean I desire to go be a missionary. That's not like what this means. Maybe it means that if that's what you want, but it's not like this then takes the form of some sort of nun walking around handing out communion wafers to everybody or whatever. You get a desire, the desire has a function, and you operate without even really understanding why, and you experience and are fulfilled, and in your experience and fulfillment that you are viewing and experiencing in the right way, it spreads like a virus to other people in a good way. I mean, just step back from this text for a minute and just think about that in real world terms. I mean, there are people out there existing in this form, and they're the people that are spreading all the good things in the world. And you have probably run into somebody like that, where it's like you're healed just being with them. Just being around them, you feel lighter. And they're not always wildly successful people. In fact, sometimes, they're like stoner hippies, hanging out on college campus and not going to classes and stuff, just hanging out with all the college kids. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just meet somebody and you will know it by how you feel when you're with them. That's kind of like what this is. And what the things are that you will do or that you will want are, you probably know some of what they already are, because a lot of the desires you feel in this skewed state, I think, are real. They're meant to be fulfilled, but they're remaining in an unfulfilled state because you keep going at it from the wrong angle. So, what your fulfillment is going to be is different for everybody. It's just, this is like a slight shifting. It's just like a slight tweaking of a human being, and it changes everything. Review lessons 67 and 68. Love created me like itself. I am in the likeness of my Creator. I cannot suffer, I cannot experience loss, and I cannot die. I am not a body. I would recognize my reality today. I will worship no idols, nor raise my own self-concept to replace my capital S self. I am the likeness of my Creator. Love created me like itself. You might find these specific forms helpful in applying the idea. Let me not see an illusion of myself in this. As I look on this, let me remember my Creator. My Creator did not create this as I see it. So just another form of saying, hey, God, correct my perception. Let me see this through your eyes. It's just, this is all these little techniques are about bringing about relief that you will feel in your body. I mean, this shit's amazing. Every time I make these videos, like, a lot of the people on my channel don't watch the videos and stuff. And I'm just like, man, dude, you guys are missing all the meat. Like, this is all the really good stuff. This is all the stuff that's going to make you actually be relieved of the things that are burdening you. 68. Love holds no grievances. Did I just have a grievance towards people on my channel? Love holds no grievances. Grievances are completely alien to love. Grievances attack love and keep its light obscure. If I hold grievances, I am attacking love and therefore attacking myself, capital S. My self, capital S, thus becomes alien to me. I am determined not to attack myself today, big S, so that I can remember who I am. These specific forms for applying this idea would be helpful. This is no justification for denying myself. I will not use this to attack love. Let this not tempt me to attack myself. Need I say more? Those are awesome. A Course in Miracles, review lessons 69 and 70. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. My grievances show me what is not there and hide from me what I would see. Recognizing this, what do I want my grievances for? They keep me in darkness and hide the light. Grievances and light cannot go together, but light and vision must be joined for me to see. To see, I must lay grievances aside. I want to see, and this will be the means by which I will succeed. Specific applications for this idea might be made in these forms. Let me not use this as a block to sight. The light of the world will shine all this away. I have no need for this. I want to see. Recently, I was telling my friends Stacy and Cecilia, ACIM Stacy and Cecilia, that I have these magic words that have caused me to like, I used to like, you know, issues that I would have with Matt, my significant other, issues that I would have with him, like I would just, this is the worst thing. And I knew it was bad, but I just couldn't like not do it. I would just like hold on to something that he did or did not do and be really mad about it and like go through all these like things about it, where I would be like, you know, he used to do this, he doesn't do this anymore. Like this was a bait and switch. Like whatever I could do. Like it was just like even like small things. By the way, I've done this in every relationship. It's not Matt's fault. This is me, obviously. And like I would just, and sometimes I would like fume about it all day, which was horrible for me. Like I'm sure it wasn't good for him. And as this, you know, Course in Miracles is saying, other people, you know, when you're holding somebody in judgment, it's not like they aren't aware of that or that that doesn't affect them. But, you know, all of a sudden one day, and I don't remember if this was from God or whatever. I don't remember if I asked for this. I'm sure I did. But all of a sudden, one day when I was sitting in this state, I suddenly said to myself, the outcome of this relationship doesn't matter. Like I understood the truth of that. There was an idea that was not in the forefront of my mind. Like I wasn't actively thinking, if this relationship doesn't work out or we don't end up together, then I have failed, or then something went wrong, or that means something bad about me. I wasn't thinking those ideas, but that idea was in there. And the only way that I knew it was in there was because when I said to myself somehow, the outcome of this relationship doesn't matter. The outcome of this relationship isn't important. All of that went away and never came back. I never sit around thinking about whether Matt is doing stuff right or wrong anymore. I just never think about it. It's like it's a non-issue. It just went away. You know what I mean? Like if I come home, I'm sitting at work. This is like an example of how dumb this is. Like if I came home from work and I was laying down on the couch, like relaxing after my long day or whatever, and Matt would get up because we're on like opposite schedules. I'm like super early bird. He's like super night owl. He would get up and he's like grumpy in the morning, which I'm not. I'm just like bounce out of bed. He'd get up and be grumpy. maybe he would just like walk by and not acknowledge me or something. I would get so pissed about that. I was just like, I deserve to be with somebody who acknowledges me. You know, he needs to be doing more to change who he is and how he is. Like, this whole thing would happen. And then depending on if like I got distracted by something else or not, it could just go on until like I went to bed. I do not give the slightest shit anymore. It just doesn't bother me. It's like I was taking it personally because on some level there was this idea there that like, I don't know, like that if things didn't work out, that meant something was wrong with me or something bad. And so therefore I would hone in on every little thing that could happen. By the way, I never like said this stuff to him. This was like all inside me. Silently just, you know, there. And so like, I don't know, my explanation is basically that there was that belief or whatever that was caused this like hypervigilance and this honing in on anything that could point to that thing happening and what it would say about me or whatever. The only way I discovered it, I'm going to make another video about this. I was just thinking about making a video about this. The only way I discovered it was by throwing some shit at the wall and to see what would stick. This is, by the way, also how I had the biggest change in my life. I hope I don't sound horrible from what I just said, but whatever. You know, in my relationships, this has been a huge sin for me, is focusing on, you know, other people, not what they're doing wrong. And I think this is a pretty human thing from what I hear. I feel kind of bad about it, but it's just like there's this thing in there and it comes out in a certain way. And again, like this is the second time I've had a major, that I can remember, that I've had a major like shift, thanks to just sort of like throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck. You know, I sort of accidentally healed a major wound that was operating everything in my life in 2019, when I just said, I don't know how what I'm going through in my life could be related to like childhood wounds from my father, but I'm going to have to assume that's what it is because it's like the only thing that I can think of. And then I started sort of saying things to myself about that original wound in the current moment when something else was happening that was like triggering me, and fixed everything. It's just like sometimes you have to reverse engineer what is causing your shit experiences in life, because they're being caused by something in you. And if you can't fix that thing, they will continue to play out and project out onto the world and create the experiences of your life. Okay, I already read this, right? My grievances hide the light of the world in me. Specific applications for this idea. Let me not use this as a block to sight. The light of the world will shine all this away. I have no need for this. I want to see. Try applying some of these, or get the concept of what they're saying and turn it into words that mean something to you, and apply them in these situations where something is happening that's disturbing your peace. And then when you feel better, observe, like make the connection. Ooh, I just said this thing and it made me feel so much better. What does that say about the source of this agony? So for me, saying the outcome of this relationship doesn't matter, revealed a lot about why I was thinking all these things. It's because I was believing the outcome of the relationship really mattered. And so therefore, any little thing that could point to the relationship not working out was something I honed in on and focused on, and probably created a whole bunch of bullshit in the relationship because of. So it's not to say that like people should be able to treat you any way they want, obviously. And I think that can be a really tricky thing for people, is like, where's the boundary then? You know what I mean? Because when you read this stuff, it really can sound like you should just stay around and, you know, constantly correct your perception and just keep the status quo in the outer world. And that's not what it means. I think you have to go with your inner sort of feeling about what to do in any kind of situation. And that's another thing where when you correct your perception, then you'll see. So you ask for a correction to your perception about a situation, and you'll just understand, you'll kind of get in your gut, it's time for me to move on from this relationship. or it's time for me to, you know, end contact with this family member sometimes, or, you know, something like that. It's not just like a blanket stay around and, you know, that's not what this means. Please don't misunderstand that. Okay, 70. My salvation comes from me. If you don't like the word salvation, just substitute in peace or something like that. Today I will recognize where my salvation is. It is in me because its source is there. It has not left its source, and so it cannot have left my mind. I will not look for it outside myself. It is not found outside and then brought in, but from within me it will reach beyond, and everything I see will but reflect the light that shines in me and in itself. If nothing else, recognize that that is saying the world is your reflection. It is a manifesting parallel. These forms of the idea are suitable for more specific applications. Let this not tempt me to look away from me for my salvation. Again, like just substitute in peace. I will not let this interfere with my awareness of the source of my salvation. This has now no power to remove salvation from me. I think this is one of the most important lessons in the whole thing, because you've got to recognize that what you're experiencing that you interpret as coming from the outer world is just something that you use to produce feelings and, you know, have experiences. It's not coming from the outer world. It's coming from the way you are tuned to the outer world. A million different people experiencing the exact same outer circumstances you are could have a million different takes on it, a million different experiences and emotional reactions and viewpoints. It's you. It's your viewpoint. All right, I'm going to keep going. This is going to be a long one. 71 and 72. Only God's plan for salvation will work. I really like the word peace more than that, because again, salvation takes me right back to being 12 years old and thrust into a church environment thanks to the way my mom felt things should be, I think. Instead of like a genuine, like she needs to be religiously educated, like from a, you know, it was more like a, this is the appropriate thing or something, what my mom felt was appropriate. God love her. I don't want to say anything bad about my mom, but not a fan of the fact that I was forced to go to church for like 5 years, kind of in the middle, out of the middle of nowhere. Only God's plan for peace will work. It is senseless for me to search wildly about for salvation. I have seen it in many people and in many things, but when I reached for it, it was not there. I guess they're not really talking about peace, although I think they are. In this way, salvation means, you know, being saved from this experience that you're having. I have seen that solution in many people and in many things, but when I reached for it, it was not there. It's not in your SP. I was mistaken about where it is. I was mistaken about what it is. I will undertake no more idle seeking. This is a big one. Only God's plan for salvation will work, and I will rejoice because his plan can never fail. These are some suggested forms for applying this idea specifically. God's plan for salvation will save me from my perception of this, whatever the situation is. This is no exception in God's plan for my salvation. Let me perceive this only in the light of God's plan for salvation. I will undertake no more idle seeking. If you make that intention and commitment, you're going to go on a completely different life path than the one you're currently on. I promise. And it takes a lot of courage to admit that nothing in the outer world is going to save you and to stop chasing after it. And for me personally, that's been a long process. You know, and it's a lot harder with certain things you really think you need to have in order to be happy. It's really hard to admit to yourself, I'm looking for something outside of myself in this thing. I'm still trying to grasp onto something out there to make me feel better in here. If you're at the point where you've had enough suffering from that, that you understand that it's, you know, it's not going to do for you what you think it will. Just that intention, I will undertake no more idle seeking. From now on, I'm committed to this understanding and living my life through those terms. I will never go back. I would go through every bad thing I've ever been through in my life to be at the point where that is not the way I live my life anymore. I think I've said that here for 5 years, but it's the truth. 72, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Holding grievances is an attempt to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work, yet only his plan will work. By holding grievances, I am therefore excluding my only hope of salvation from my awareness. I would no longer defeat my own best interests in this insane way. I would accept God's plan for salvation and be happy. Specific applications for this idea might be in these forms. I am choosing between misperception and salvation as I look on this. If I see grounds for grievances in this, I will not see the grounds for my salvation. This calls for salvation, not attack. And I think the form that the salvation often takes, this goes right in line with Esther Hicks, it's simply turning your attention away from something. It's simply refusing to give it any juice. So I'm choosing between misperception and peace as I look on this. So it's like, it's where you put your focus and the judgments that you have about the things you're focusing on. It's those things that will produce peace for you, happiness, joy, fulfillment, ecstasy, interest, whatever that means for you. What does salvation mean for you? It's whatever you're chasing in the outer world. You're chasing salvation. So whatever it is that you're trying to get from those things in the 3D world, that's your idea of salvation. Every time you look at something, depending on how you're looking at it, you're going to find that thing you're chasing after, that state that you're chasing after, or you're going to find something shittier. And so it's up to you, really. It's always up to you. There's nothing and no one to change but self. Lessons 73 and 74. I will there be light. I will use the power of my will today. It is not my will to grope about in darkness, fearful of shadows and afraid of things unseen and unreal. Light shall be my guide today. I will follow it where it leads me, and I will look only on what it shows me. This day I will experience the peace of true perception. These forms of this idea would be helpful for specific applications. This cannot hide the light I will to see. You stand with me in light, person. In the light, this will look different. Do I need to say it again? That literally everything about manifestation, everything about A Course in Miracles, everything about everything is perception, and perception can be changed nearly immediately. There is no will but God's. I am safe today because there is no will but God's. I can become afraid only when I believe there is another will. I try to attack only when I'm afraid, and only when I try to attack can I believe that my eternal safety is threatened. Today I will recognize that all this has not occurred. I am safe because there is no will but God's. These are some useful forms of this idea for specific applications. Let me perceive this in accordance with the will of God. It is God's will. You are his son, so-and-so, and mine as well. This is part of God's will for me, however I may see it. This is another one that needs heavy translating for me, because just a term like will of God or God's will just drive me crazy from my religious exposure. It really wasn't a bad experience. Nothing bad happened to me or anything. It's just, I found it so boring, and I was so disgusted with my mom for forcing me to do it. And I had no experience whatsoever to understand anything that was being talked about. I mean, if you go into an organized religion experience of any kind, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but there's also a lot of garbage in there. And I had no way of even knowing what they were talking about, much less sorting the garbage from the real good stuff. So, this is where I get stuck. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. There's no will but God's. Basically, the translation of this for me is that it's all good. Today I will recognize that all this has not occurred. So all of your perceptions out there in the world that have brought you anything other than peace, they're not the real one. Yes, that includes people dying in the Holocaust. Yes, that includes, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It means that the way you're perceiving it is not through the eyes of God. And if you were able to perceive it correctly, it would still be what it was, factually, but you would see it in a different way. And in that different way that you saw it would not be one that deprived you of your peace. 75 and 76. I think I'm going to stop here because is today's yeah, okay, let me just read this. So 75, the light has come. In choosing salvation rather than attack, I merely choose to recognize what is already there. Salvation is a decision made already. Attack and grievances are not there to choose. That's why I always choose between truth and illusion. Attack and grievances aren't there to be chosen. That is why I always choose between truth and illusion, between what is there and what is not. The light has come. I can but choose the light, for it has no alternative. It has replaced the darkness, and the darkness has gone. These would prove useful forms for specific applications of this idea. This situation cannot show me darkness, for the light has come. The light in you is all that I would see, person that I have a grievance against. I would see in this only what is there. The best way I think to apply this stuff, any of these ideas, these little sentences that they give you, it's like when you get embroiled in one of these situations, I would see in this only what is there, and then remove your attention from it, because the shift in perception will come. And yes, you can probably sit there thinking about it. By the way, the change in perception can come and you miss it. That's a possibility. It always comes though. If you are mad at somebody or something and you say, I would see in this only what is there, and then you just go right back to thinking about like everything they're doing wrong, I don't think that's the most effective way to apply this. The most effective way to apply this is to say it and then remove your energy from it. Actually visualize whatever thing is beaming out from your body at this situation. Visualize it coming back into your sphere. For me, that does something. And then just turn your attention away from it. And especially like if you're upset, go calm down. Like do something to calm down. Because the sooner you're calm, the sooner your perspective can just sort of like shift. You've probably experienced these perception shifts naturally by just calming down. And then you have, once that rage or whatever isn't there, you see things differently. You definitely experience this because this is the way everything is working anyway. Just like manifestation, this is about applying an intentional thing deliberately rather than just fumbling around in the dark. And sometimes you right yourself and sometimes you don't. So anyway, the best thing is to, I think, apply the idea and then just like get away from it and allow there to be some space in there for the correct vision of it to reveal itself. 76, I am under no laws but God's. Here is the perfect statement of my freedom. I am under no laws but God's. I like to say I answer to a higher authority. I am constantly tempted to make up other laws and give them power over me. I suffer only because of my belief in them. I suffer only because of my belief in the other made-up laws that I have made up and given power to. They have no real effect on me at all. I am perfectly free of the effects of all laws save God's, and His are the laws of freedom. And you will absolutely experience this. If you shift one of these things, you will realize that it was just a lens you were living your life through. It was just a projection out onto the world that you were seeing. None of these things are real. None of these ideas are real. They're all made up. Like everything here is made up by man. It's just all made up. Nothing here is even, you have a right to be here, by the way. I felt like I really needed to say that today. For specific forms in applying this idea, these would be useful. My perception of this shows me I believe in laws that do not exist. So when you as a woman look in the mirror and you say, I'm not good enough looking, my perception of this shows me I believe in laws that do not exist. I see only the laws of God at work in this. Let me allow God's laws to work in this and not my own. God, let me see myself through your eyes. If you have issues with your appearance, try asking to see yourself through God's eyes every time you have one of those moments where you see yourself and you go, that thing about me isn't good enough. You will transform before your eyes if you do that long enough. It is miraculous. I'm not choosing that word on purpose. It really is. All right, I'm going to keep going because I thought that last one was something it isn't. Okay, 77 and 78. I am entitled to miracles. I am entitled to miracles because I am under no laws but God's. His laws release me from all grievances and replace them with miracles. And I would accept the miracles in place of the grievances, which are but illusions that hide the miracles beyond. Now I would accept only what the laws of God entitle me to have, that I may use it on behalf of the function he has given me. I'm smiling because I just said miraculous, and then the next thing was about miracles. You might use these suggestions for specific applications of this idea. Behind this is a miracle to which I am entitled. I love that. Behind this is a miracle to which I am entitled. I'm going to do that one. Let me not hold a grievance against you, Matt, but offer you the miracle that belongs to you instead. I'm not mad at Matt right now. It's just whatever. Seen truly, this offers me a miracle. Beyond this is a miracle to which I am entitled. Do you know how exciting that is? Like, really, if you don't get what that means, I love this, and this has been sort of my message since I started this channel, which is, behind every belief you have that is wrong is like an entirely new experience of life that is better than the one that you've been experiencing. That's what that is. Behind this is a miracle to which I am entitled, but I really like those words. If you're seeing yourself as not having a right to exist, as not having a right to be here, you're living the life of an entirely different person than you will be living if you understand that you have just as much of a right to be here as anybody else. It doesn't matter if you've done nothing with your life. It doesn't matter if somebody else has spent their whole life rescuing babies from burning buildings. You and that person have an equal right to be here. It's just a fact, because everything here is made up. Everything is made up. The only thing that's real is that you're in a physical form existing on this rock. That's it. So how does somebody else have more of a right to be here than you? I have no idea why this came up this morning. I was driving to McDonald's to get a Diet Coke when I left my house this morning. And I just all of a sudden thought, I need to tell somebody out there that they have a right to be here. That's what's coming through me today. Hopefully whoever it was made it this far. They probably clicked off after 30 seconds. Okay. 78, let miracles replace all grievances. By this idea do I unite my will with the Holy Spirit's and perceive them as one. By this idea do I accept my release from hell. By this idea do I express my willingness to have all my illusions be replaced with truth, according to God's plan for my salvation. I would make no exceptions and no substitutes. I want all of heaven and only heaven as God wills me to have. I think if you think of God as like some dude, that this becomes a little more difficult. I know it is for me. When I think of God as just sort of being an ununderstandable sum total of everything that is just sort of unfolding in a miraculous way, that's where this stuff starts to make more sense to me. And when I don't have a big problem with the Holy Spirit for some reason. I don't know why. A lot of the time I just do exactly what A Course in Miracles says, and I'll say, Holy Spirit, change my perspective, because I just think of the Holy Spirit as like the liaison between me and the correct perception, and it just serves some function to fix it somehow. That doesn't really bother me. But the God's will thing, again, for me, kind of there's some idea that I got at a young age that like God's will is really boring. It's not anything I'm going to enjoy. It's not anything that's going to make me happy or feel peace or whatever. It's nothing that I would want. It's basically a chore. Me being a vessel for God's will is a chore. That's sort of like an idea that I've had, and that I still, when I read this language, that comes right back up, like it's not gone. So I have to actually think about this and sort of change it for myself to what I believe it actually means, which is that, you know, my role in the unfolding of this whole thing presents me with desires that are meant to be fulfilled. And pretty much only when I am seeing things correctly can I perceive those desires, those impulses, whatever that thing is that makes you want something. Only when I am not coming at it from the wrong angle do I actually see it, can I actually get it and experience it to the level that, you know, like the thing that was missing from me from the church experience is that this role that you play is the most fulfilling role that you can have, because it's where you are perfectly in alignment. It's where you have a desire, it comes from the right place, you experience it to its fullest, you're just right in alignment with it, it just happens. Like, I'm obviously not like an enlightened master, and I certainly don't experience this type of stuff in every area of my life, but in a lot of areas of my life, my alignment's not too far off. And when there is something that I want in one of those areas, I don't question it a lot. And the less I get in the way, the more it just like pops right up. And it's exciting for me. It's more than exciting. It's like when I talk about my business, it's one of these things, and I don't know what function my business is serving. I don't know if it's part of God's will. I don't know if it's like the natural unfolding that's part of this whole thing. But that to me is like one of the most aligned areas of my life. It gets skewed sometimes for sure, but you know, that's where I've experienced the most, you know, I get an idea, it's like I'm being pulled right to it, everything I need comes right together, and then it like explodes into manifestation, and it's just the most fun and exhilarating and successful, and just like, that's where I've experienced that a lot. And that's what I think this is talking about. It's like when you're in alignment and you have the desires that come up that aren't coming from some skewed idea or some, you know, twisted belief or something, that's God's will. It's your will, and it manifests. And that's what I think this experience is. When you get this and start diligently doing applying these things, these ideas, useful specific forms for applying this idea that miracles will replace all grievances. I would not hold this grievance apart from my salvation. Let our grievances be replaced by miracles, Matt. Let our grievances be replaced by miracles, Matt. I intend for that. Matt and I have a good relationship. And that's not enough for me. I still focus on those little things. Let all of my grievances be replaced by miracles. And what the miracle often looks like is you understand that you were perceiving something totally the wrong way. You perceived a motive coming from somebody that was not there. And you realize where they were truly coming from. Or you make a judgment about somebody, and then you realize how horribly incorrectly you were seeing that situation. I was listening to a Marianne Williamson lecture, and she told this story about, and by the way, I mean, this, you know, Marianne Williamson is like on the lecture circuit for what, like 40 years now at least. She wrote A Return to Love in the early 90s. She's been lecturing about these exact ideas forever. Neville lectured about these ideas in a different way forever. Both of these people have said in their lectures, Neville said, please don't think that I'm above this. I have to constantly watch my inner talk. I have to constantly revise something that just happened. I have to constantly, you know, view this person the way I would like to see them instead of the way I'm viewing them. notice that, Neville's idea is like, I have to see this person as I would want them to be. I have to see this person the way God sees them. There's another parallel. But anyway, both of these people basically said, I am not above this. This is a practice. This is something I must do all the time. It's just that practice, gets you really good at things. But Marianne Williamson was saying in this lecture that she had been like getting her nails done, and the woman that was doing her nails, or somebody, was talking in this like grandiose fashion, and Marianne was just like, who do you think you are? She was like judging. This is while she's on the lecture circuit, preaching about this, finding herself falling prey to it, just judging. And she says to herself, let me see this different, correct my perception. And then within like a few minutes, this woman who was speaking in this way told this story about how she and her brother had been locked in a basement for like 3 years of their childhood, and had no human contact, just like given like the bare necessities to like not die. It's like the most horrifying story Marianne's ever heard. And part of it was this woman never learned to talk. She had to learn to talk when she was like 7 or something. I don't know. But basically, Marianne was shown almost immediately that, her judgment on this woman was completely wrong. It was completely wrong. It was her own garbage projections coming out. So that's like an example of what happens when you actually make this a practice. You actually, things are actually revealed to you. That's the miracle. I'm going to stop here because this is 56 minutes long and I'm getting tired, honestly, of this. And I just flipped to the next ones, and it's starting to go off, I think. But I'm going to keep doing this because I think it's really important to hear the ideas in different ways and to hear things repeated. And I know that these videos don't have as wide of an appeal. I'm going to try to come up with a good title for this video and see if people actually click on it, because maybe my titles have just sucked for these. But yeah, I just like these. This is just so full of like, this is full of juice. This is full of meat. This is all the good stuff. This is the release from your hell that you're in. This or these ideas in some other language, something that expresses these ideas, are going to be the relief to every single person's mental prison. It's really cool to be able to see how these things relate to each other. 5 or 10 years ago, I would have thought this was different from Neville, was different from Esther, was different from Bashar and Seth and all the channelers. Really, it's amazing because basically that just came from me recognizing a universal truth, and I didn't get that from my own amazing ability to do so. That was a revelation, like a legitimate revelation. On December, I think 2nd of 2019, I remember where I was. I realized I was given the words in my head, "You're creating all of it." I think I actually read it on a post on Reddit. You're creating all of it. And when I read those words, I instantly knew, in an experiential way, how, I don't know, that they were true. That was the revelation. That was the download. That was the understanding that I got without actually having come upon it on my own. And the amazing thing about revelations is that they bring as the Course in Miracles actually says, and defined this for me, defined my experience for me after the fact. The Course in Miracles is defining my whole experience for me. It's pretty cool reading it. It said, basically, a revelation brings about a temporary but complete suspension of doubt, I think, disbelief. I've had 2 of these, and 2, maybe 2, 3, 4 week long temporary suspensions. It's like when you come in touch with the truth like that out of nowhere, it's so jarring that it just shakes all the other bullshit off, and it slowly creeps back in as you live your life. But those 2 like month periods were just like, they are so memorable. If that's what salvation is, please believe me when I say that you want it, because it's just like, I remember during the first one, I was alone, and I thought, you know, I could be lying alone in a hospital bed at 80 years old, with no family, and it wouldn't bother me, because I feel so, at the time I was saying I feel so close to God, but that was just like an idea in my head. If I had to revisit that in my mind and redefine what that was, it was such a total and complete understanding of the oneness of everything. It was like I was connected to everything and everyone while being alone. And I experienced the same exact thing in 2019. I was just like, you know, and that's also, by the way, when I realized what loneliness really is. Loneliness is feeling separate from everyone else. It's feeling it's feeling like there's something flawed about you that disconnects you from the whole. Because when you understand your wholeness, you just understand that that everyone else too is whole, and that this is just one big being. And you can't, how could you be alone? It's like a droplet feeling lonely in the ocean. It can't happen. All right, I think that's good. What do you think? I hope you have a lovely day. It's 8:30 on Sunday morning. I'm going to go to my office and upload this and try to think of a good title so people will click on it and get the juicy meat from this, from these lessons. Have a great day.